unreasonably. Anyway, I know Malfoy always going on about how good he is at Quidditch, but I bet that's all talk. Malfoy certainly did talk about flying a lot. He complained loudly about first year never getting in the house Quidditch teams and told long, bloodful story which always seemed to end with him narrowing escaping muggles in helicopters. He wasn't the only one though. The way Seamus Finnegan told it, he'd spent most of his childhood roaming around the countryside on his broomstick. Even Ron would tell anyone who would listen the time he almost hit a hang glider on Charlie's old broom. Everyone from Wizarding family talked about Quidditch constantly. Ron had already had a big argument with Dean Thomas, who shared the dormitory, about football. Ron couldn't see what was exciting about a game with only one ball, where no one was allowed to play. Harry had got Ron prohibiting Dean's poster of West Ham football team, trying to make the player move. Neville had never been on a broomstick in his life because his grandmother had never let him near one. Privately, Harry felt she had good reason, because Neville managed to have an extraordinary number of accidents even with both feet on the ground. Hermione Granger was almost as nervous about flying as Neville was. There was something you couldn't learn by heart out of a book. Not that she hadn't tried. At breakfast on Thursday, she bought them all stupid with flying tips she'd got out of library book called Quidditch through the age. Neville was hanging on to her every word, desperate for anything that might have him hung onto his broomstick later. But everybody else was very pleased when Hermione's lecture was interrupted by the arrival of the post. Harry hadn't had a single letter since Hagrid's note, something that Malfoy had been quick to notice, of course. Malfoy's ego was always bringing his packet of sweets from home, which he opened gloatingly at the Slytherin stable. Upon all brought Neville a small packet from his grandmother. He opened it excitedly and showed them a glass bowl the size of a large marble, which seemed to be full of white smoke. It's a remembrance, he explained. Gran knows I forget things. It tells you if there's something you've forgotten to do. Look, you hold it tight like this and it's turned red. Oh, his face fell, because the remembrance had suddenly glowed scarlet. You've forgotten something. Neville was trying to remember what he had forgotten when Draco Malfoy, who was passing the Gryffindor table, snatched the remembrance out of his hand. Harry and Ron jumped to their feet. They were half hoping for a reason to find Malfoy, but Professor McGonagall, who could spot trouble quicker than any teacher in the school, was there in a flash. What's going on? Malfoy got my remembrance, Professor. Scolding, Malfoy quickly dropped the remembrance back on the table. Just looking, he said, and he sloped away with Grubber and Goyle behind him. At 3:30 that afternoon, Harry, Ron, and the other Gryffindors hurried down the front steps into the grounds of their first flying lesson. It was a clear, breezy day, and the grass rippled under their feet as they marched down the sloping lawns towards the smooth lawn on the opposite side of the grounds to the Forbidden Forest, whose trees were swaying darkly in the distance. The Slytherin were already there, and so were 20 broomsticks lying in neat lines on the ground. Harry had heard Fred and Giorgio Weasley complain about the school brooms, saying that some of them start to vibrate if you flew too high, or always flew slightly to the left. Their teacher, Madame Hooch, arrived. She had soft grey hair and yellow eyes like a hawk. Well, what are you all waiting for? She barked. Everyone stand by a broomstick. Come on, hurry up. Harry glanced shouted. Harry's broom jumped into his hand at once, but it was one of the few that did. Hermione Granger had simply rolled over on the ground, and Neville hadn't moved at all. Perhaps broom, like horse, could tell when you were afraid, though Harry, there was a quaver in Neville's voice that said only too clearly that he wanted to keep his feet on the ground. Madame Hooch then showed them how to mount their broom without sliding off the end and walk up and down the road, correcting their grips. Harry and Ron were delighted when she told Malfoy he'd been doing it wrong for years. Now, when I blow my whistle, you kick up from the ground, aunt, said Madame Hooch. Keep your broom steady, rise a few feet, and then come straight back down by leaning forward slightly. On my whistle, 3, 2. But Neville, nervous and jumpy and frightened of being left on the ground, pushed up hard before the whistle had touched Madame Hooch's sleeve. Come back, boy, she shouted. But Neville was rising straight up like a cock shot out of a bottle. 12 feet, 20 feet. Harry saw his scared white face look down at the ground falling away, saw him gasp, slip sideways off the broom, and wham! A third and nasty crack, and Neville lay face down on the grass in a heap. His broomstick was then rising higher and higher and started to drift lazily towards the forbidden forest and out of sight. Madame Hooch was bending over Neville, her face as white as his broken wrist. Harry heard her mutter, "Come on, boy, it's all right, up you get." She turned to the rest of the class. "None of you is to move while I take this boy to the hospital wing. You leave those brooms where they are, or you'll be out of Hogwarts before you can say Quidditch. Come on, dear." Neville, his face tear-streaked, clutching his wrist, hovered with Madame Hooch, who had her arm around him. No sooner were they out of earshot than Malfoy burst into laughter. Did you see his face? The great lump. The other Slytherin joined in. "Shut up, Malfoy," snapped Parvati Patin. "Oh, sticking up for Longbottom," said Pansy Parkinson, her hard-faced Slytherin guns. "Never thought you'd like a fat little crybabies, Parvati." "Look," said Malfoy, darting forward and snatching something out of the grass. "It's that stupid thing Longbottom Grant sent him. The remembrance glittered in the sun as he held it up. Keep that here, Malfoy," said Harry quietly. Everyone stopped talking to watch. Malfoy smiled nastily. "I think I'll leave it somewhere for Longbottom to collect. How about G? Keep it here." Harry yelled, but Malfoy had leaped onto his broomstick and taken off. He had been lying. He could fly well, hovering level with the topmost branch of unwalked tree. He called, "Come and get it, Potter." Harry grabbed his broom. "No," shouted Hermione Granger. "Madame Hooch told us not to move. You get us all into trouble." Harry ignored her, blood pouring in his ears. He mounted the broom and kicked hard against the ground and up he swung. Air rushed through his hair and his robe whipped out behind him, and in a rush of fierce joy he realized he found something he could do without being touched. This was easy. This was wonderful. He pulled his broomstick up a little to take it even higher and heard screams and gasps of girls back on the ground and an admiring whoop from Ron. He turned his broomstick sharply to face Malfoy in mid-air. Malfoy looked stunned. "Give it here," Harry called. "I'll knock you off that broom." "Oh yeah," said Malfoy, trying to sneer but looking worried. Harry knew, somehow, what to do. He leaned forward and grasped the broom tightly in both hands, and it shot towards Malfoy like a javelin. Malfoy only just got out of the way in time. Harry made a sharp about turn and held the broom steady. A few people below were clapping. "No grabber and coil, I'm here to save your neck," Malfoy, Harry called. The same thought seemed to have struck Malfoy. "Catch it if you can, then," he shouted, and he threw the glass ball high into the air and streaked back toward the crowd. Harry saw, as though in a slow motion, the ball rise up in the air and then start to fall. He leaned forward and pointed it, broom handed down. Next second he was gathering speed in a steep drive. Raising the ball, wind whistled in his ears. Mingled with the scream of people watching, he stretched out his hand. A foot from the ground he caught it, just in time to pull his broom straight, and he stopped, looked gently onto the grass with the remembrance clutched safely in his fist. "Harry Potter!" His heart sank faster than he should dive. Professor McGonagall was running towards them. He got to his feet, trembling. "Never in all my time at Hogwarts." Professor McGonagall was almost speechless with shock, and her glass flashed furiously. "How dare you! Might have broken your neck." "It wasn't his fault, Professor." "Be quiet, Miss Martin." "But Malfoy." "That enough. Mr. Weasley, Potter, follow me, now." Harry caught sight of Malfoy, grabbed her and caught his giant face as he left, walking numbly in Professor McGonagall's wake as he strode toward the castle. He was going to be expelled. He just knew it. He wanted to say something to defend himself, but there seemed to be something wrong with his voice. Professor McGonagall was sweeping along without even looking at him. He had to joke to keep up. Now he'd done it, he hadn't even lasted 2 weeks. He'd be packing his bags in 10 minutes. What would the Dursleys say when he turned up on doorstep? Up the front steps, up the marble staircase inside, and still Professor McGonagall didn't say a word to him. She wrenched open doors and marched along corridors with Harry trotting miserably behind her. Maybe she was taking him to Dumbledore. He thought of Harry, expelled but allowed to stay as a gatekeeper. Perhaps he could be Hagrid's assistant. He so much twist as he imagined it, watching Ron and the other becoming wizards while he stumped around the ground, carrying Hagrid's bag. Professor McGonagall stopped outside a classroom. It's just the view of a seeker too, said Wood, now walking around Harry and staring him like, Speedy, we'd have to get him a decent room, Professor. A Nimbus 2000 or a clean Web 7, I say. I shall speak to Professor Dumbledore and see if we can bend the first year rule. Heaven knows, we need a better team than last year. Flatten that last match by Slytherin. I couldn't look Severus Snape in the face for weeks. Professor McGonagall peered sternly over her glass at Harry. I want you to hear your training hard, Potter, or I may change my mind about punishing you. Then she suddenly smiled. Your father would have been proud, she said. He was an excellent Quidditch player himself. You're joking. It was dinner time. Harry had just finished telling Ron what had happened when he left the ground with the Professor McGonagall. Ron had a piece of steak and kidney pie halfway to his mouth, but he'd forgotten all about it. Sicker, he said. As first year, never. You must be the junkiest house player in about a century, said Harry, stuffing peas into his mouth. He felt particularly hungry after the excitement of the afternoon. Who told me? Ron was so amazed, so impressed. He just sat and gaped at Harry. I start training next week, said Harry. Only don't tell anyone. Would want to keep it a secret. Fred and Gijo Wesley now came into the hall, spotted Harry and hurried over. Well done, said Gijo in a low voice. Who told us? We are on the team too, Peters. I tell you, we are going to win the Quidditch Cup for sure this year, said Fred. We haven't won since Charlie left, but this year's team is going to be brilliant. You must be good, Harry. Wood was almost giving when he told us. Anyway, we got to go. Teacher and Recon found a new secret pathway out of school. Bet is that one behind the statue of Gregory there's money that we found in our first week. See you. Fred and Gijo had sadly disappeared when someone far less welcome turned up. Malfoy, flanked by Grabber and Goy, having a last meal, Potter, when you getting the chain back to the muggers. You're a lot braver now you're back on the ground and you've got your little friends with you, said Harry coldly. There was of course nothing at all little about Grabber and Goy, but as the high table was full of teachers, neither of them could do more than crack their knuckle and skull. I think you on any time on my own, said Malfoy. Tonight, if you want. Wizard duel. Once only, no contact. What's the matter? Never heard of a wizard duel before, I suppose. Of course he has, said Ron, wheeling round. I'm mistaken. Who's yours? Malfoy looked at Grabber and Goy, sizing them up. Grabber, he said. Midnight, all right. We'll meet you in the choppy room. That's always unlocked. When Malfoy had gone, Ron and Harry looked at each other. What is a wizard duel? Said Harry. And what do you mean? You're my second. Well, a second is there to take over if you die, said Ron casually, getting started at last on his cold pies, catching the look on Harry's face. He had quickly. But people only die in proper duels, you know, which the real wizards. The most you and Malfoy be able to do is send spark at each other. Neither of you knows enough magic to do any real damage. I bet he expects you to be refused anyway. And what if I wave my hand and nothing happens? Throw it away and punch him on the nose, Ron suggested. Excuse me. They both looked up. It was Hermione Granger. Can a person eat in peace in that place? Said Ron. Hermione ignored him and spoke to Harry. I couldn't help overhearing what you and Malfoy were saying. Bet you could, Ron muttered. And you must not go wandering around the school at night. Think of the boys you lose, Gryffindor, if you are caught. and you're about to be. It really is very selfish of you, and it's really none of your business, said Harry. Goodbye, said Ron. On the same, it wasn't what you'd call the perfect end to the day, Harry thought, as he lay awake much later listening to Dean and Seamus falling asleep. Neville wasn't back from the hospital wing. Ron had spent all evening giving him advice such as, if he tries to curse you, you better dodge it, because I can't remember how to block them. There was a very good chance they were going to get caught by Finch or Miss Norris, and Harry felt he was pushing his luck, breaking another school rule today. On the other hand, Malfoy's sneering face kept coming up out of the darkness. This was his big chance to beat Malfoy, face to face. He couldn't miss it. 11:30, Ron muttered at last. We'd better go. They pulled on their dressing gowns, picked up their wands and crept across the tower room, down the spiral staircase and into the Gryffindor common room. A few embers were still glowing in the fireplace, turning all their armchairs into hunchback shadows. They had almost reached the portrait hole when a voice spoke from the chair nearest them. I can't believe you're going to do this, Harry. A lamp flickered on. It was Hermione Granger, wearing a pink dressing gown in front. You, said Ron furiously, go back to bed. I almost told your brother. Hermione snapped. Percy, he's a prefect. Put a stop to this. Harry couldn't believe anyone could be so interfering. Come on, he said to Ron. He pushed open the portrait of the fat lady and climbed through the hole. Hermione wasn't going to give up that easily. He followed Ron through the portrait hole, hissing at them like an angry goose. Don't you care about Gryffindor? Do you only care about yourself? I don't want Slytherin to win the House Cup and you lose on the boy I got from Professor McLaren for knowing about switching spells. Go away. Alright, but I warn you. You just remember what I said when you are on the train home tomorrow. You are so... But what they were, they didn't buy out. Everyone had turned to the portrait of the fat lady to get back inside and found herself facing an empty painting. The fat lady had gone on a midnight visit and everyone was locked out of Gryffindor Tower. Now what am I going to do? He asked shrilly. That's your problem, said Ron. We got to go. We're going to be late. They hadn't even reached the end of the corridor when Hermione caught up with them. I'm coming with you, she said. You are not. Do you think I'm going to stand out here and wait for Finch to catch me? If he fires on three of us, I'll tell him the truth. That I was trying to stop you and you can't back me up. You've got some nerve, said Ron loudly. Shut up, both you, said Harry sharply. I've heard something. It was a sort of snuffling. Miss Norris, breathed Ron, squinting through the dark. It wasn't Miss Norris. It was Neville. He was curled up on the floor, fast asleep, but jerked suddenly awake as they grabbed near. Thank goodness you found me. I've been out here for hours. I couldn't remember the new password to get into bed. Keep your voice down, Neville. The password was Big Snout, but it won't help you now. The fat lady is gone for somewhere. How's your arms? Said Harry. Fine, said Neville, showing them. Madame Pomfrey made it in about a minute. Good. Well, look, Neville, we got to go somewhere. We'll see you later. Don't leave me, said Neville, scrambling to his feet. I don't want to stay here all alone. The bloody Baron's been past twice already. crashing were enough to wake the whole castle. "Run!" Harry yelled, and the four of them sprinted down the gallery, not looking back to see whether Finch was following. They swung around the doors, paused, and galloped down one corridor, then another, Harry in the lead without any idea where they were or where they were going. They ripped through a deep stride and found themselves in a hidden passageway, walked along it, and came out near their charms classroom, which they knew was mine from the trophy room. "I think we've lost him," Harry panted, leaning against the cold walls and wiping his forehead. Neville was bent double, wheezing and spluttering. "I told you," Hermione gasped, clutching at the stitch in her chest. "I told you." "We got to get back to Gryffindor Tower," said Ron, quickly as possible. "Malfoy checked you," Hermione said to Harry. "You realize that, don't you? He was never going to meet you. Finch knew someone was going to be in trophy room. Malfoy must have tipped him off." Harry thought she was probably right, but he wasn't going to tell her that. "Let's go." It wasn't going to be that simple. They hadn't gone more than a dozen paces when a doorknob rattled and something came shouting out of a classroom in front of them. It was Beavis. He caught sight of them and gave a squeal of delight. "Shut up, Beavis, please. You can get us thrown out." Beavis cackled, wandering around at midnight. Eager first year. "Toot toot toot. Naughty, naughty. You get naughty. Not if you don't give us away, please. Beavis, please." "Should tell Finch, I should," said the Beavis in a saintly voice, but his eyes glittered wickedly. "It's for your own good, you know." "Get out of your way," snapped Ron, taking a swipe at Beavis. That was a big mistake. Student out of bed, Beavis bellowed, shrieking out of bed down the charms corridor. Ducking under Beavis, they ran off for their lives, right to the end of the corridor, where they slammed into a door, and it was locked. "This is," Ron moaned, as they pushed helplessly at the door. "We're done for. At either end." They could hear footsteps. Finch turned, running as fast as he could toward Beavis' out. "Oh, move over." Everyone snuck. She grabbed Harry one, tapped the lock and whispered, "Alamo Morale." The lock clicked and the door swung open. They peeled through it, shut it quickly and pressed their ear against it, listening. "Which way did they go, Beavis?" Finch was saying. "Quick, tell me." "Say please." "Don't mess me around, Beavis. Now where did they go?" "Santa shall not say nothing if you don't say please," said Beavis in his annoying sing-song voice. "All right, please." "Nothing. Told you I wouldn't say nothing if you didn't say please." And they heard the sound of Beavis whoosing away and Finch cursing in rage. "He thinks this door is locked," Harry whispered. "I think we'll be okay. Get up, Neville." For Neville had been tucking on the sleeve of Harry's dressing gown for last minute. "What?" Harry turned around and saw quietly what, for a moment, he was sure he walked into a nightmare. This was too much, on top of everything that had happened so far. They were not in a room, as he supposed. They were in a corridor, the forbidden corridor on the third floor, and now they knew why it was forbidden. They were looking straight into the eyes of a monstrous dog, a dog which filled the whole space within, ceiling and floor. It had 3 heads, 3 pairs of rolling mad eyes, 3 noses, twitching and quivering in their direction, 3 drooling mouths, slimy saliva hanging in slippery ropes from yellowish fangs. It was standing quite still, on thick eyes staring at them, and Harry knew that the only reason they were not already dead was that their sudden appearance had taken by surprise, but it was quickly getting over that. There was no mistaking what those thunderous groans meant. corridor. Finn must have hurried up to look for them somewhere else because they didn't see him anywhere. But they hardly care. All they want to do was put as much space as possible between them and that monster. They didn't stop running until they reached the portrait of the fat lady on the 7th floor. "Where on earth have you all been?" she asked, looking at their dressing gown hanging off their shoulder and their full sweetie face. "Never mind that. Big snort," panted Harry, and the portrait swung forward. They scrambled into the common room and collapsed trembling into armchairs. It was a while before any of them said anything. Neville, indeed, looked as if he'd never speak again. "What do they think they are doing, keeping a thing like that locked up in school?" said Ron finally. "It ain't dog needs exercise, that one's that." Everyone had got both her breath and her bad temper back again. "You don't use your eyes, any of you, you," she snapped. "Didn't you see what was standing on the floor?" Harry suggested. "I wasn't looking at his feet. I was too busy with his head." "No, not the floor. It was standing on a trapdoor. It's obviously guarding something." She stood up, glaring at them. "I hope you're pleased with yourself. We could all have been killed or expelled. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to bed." Ron stared after her, his mouth open. "No, we don't mind," he said. "You'd think we'd drag her along, wouldn't you?" But Hermione had given Harry something else to think about as he climbed back to bed. The door was guarding something. What had Hagrid said? Green Ghost was the safest place in the world for something you wanted to hide, except perhaps Hogwarts. It looked as though Harry had found out where the grubby little packet from Vault 713 was. Okay guys,